gotta believe that it's all in you. Everything you're searching for, it's all in you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Freedom Nation podcast. And it's another of our expert shows today. We're bringing on Bob Wheeler. I met Bob a few weeks ago. He was introduced through a friend, and we really hit it off. And our missions are somewhat aligned with Freedom Day and what Bob does. So we'll spend a little bit of time learning a little bit about his business and what he does, but we'll start off with his story. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you on. I'm really excited. I love the fish in the background. That's a great, and it's an actual real background and not the fake background with
Those
swimming
are real
fish.
fish.
Real actual fish.
Real fish.
Bob, let's kick it off. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your story? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
From an early age. So that was my goal. I went to college with the mission of law school, constitutional law. Took accounting as to help my grade point average, because I had taken it in high school. A friend had recommended it, said you'd do well, and I did well. And so it was an easy A.
Okay.
Not going to be an accountant. Going to be a lawyer.
That is not the usual thing. You usually don't take accounting to improve your GPA, but yeah.
Exactly. So I'm one of those weirdos. And Latin. I get in and I realize I meet some of these lawyers, don't really like them all that much. And I realized at the time I wasn't that comfortable with getting up thinking I had to be in a courtroom and talking and stuff. And I went, you know what? Accounting has been good to me. It's easy. I know you're supposed to work hard and it's got to be painful, but I'm going to go down this route of accounting. It feels pretty solid.
It seems natural to me. Yeah.
It seems natural. So I got into accounting. At the same time, I always was the class clown, joked around. So I was into comedy, but I realized doing accounting, I probably wasn't going to get discovered doing comedy in the back room with a calculator. So started getting out doing comedy.
There's the expression, if you want to look skinny, hang out with a bunch of fat people. If you want to be really funny, hang out with a bunch of accountants is what I'm thinking.
Exactly. And they won't get any of your jokes. And so what happened was I started doing comedy and people knew that I was an accountant. So help me with your taxes. And I was like, no, I'm just doing comedy. What happened was I was at the Comedy Store. I was running a show there doing comedy. The owner called me up, Mitzi Shore, and said, you got to help us out. We're in trouble. We haven't paid our taxes. And they had $100,000 worth of debt. IRS was ready to close their doors.
Oof.
And I was like, I got to help the store. My friends are all comics. Eventually, I just want to be a comic, but I've got this CPA license. We'll use it. And so I started working with the Comedy Store. They didn't have a lot of money. I had my own business practice. I realized I needed to make sure it was super successful so that I could help the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Ended up picking up a lot of entertainment clients because my friends were performers, directors, and all that. And so I got really into this niche of entrepreneurs, especially in entertainment.
Okay.
And it seems like a lot of spouses are married to therapists. So I got a lot of therapy clients as well. I know, I'm sure there's some relationship
There's something,
there.
I'm not sure what the mix is, but yeah.
Something going on. And between the Comedy Store, working with Mitzi, I've been the CFO, COO, 25 years now. I've had a tax practice. I brought in a business partner about 5 years ago because I realized I couldn't do what I was doing with the tax practice. Then I started this other company, the Money Nerve, and the podcast, because I really wanted to, what I discovered along the way was whether my tax clients, whether my entertainment clients, whether it was the Comedy Store, people and emotions around money was the major factor. If people were emotionally sabotaging or didn't think they were capable or whatever it might be, if I didn't understand their story and if I couldn't normalize these conversations, like people checked out pretty quick. And at the same time that I was helping other people, I wasn't taking care of my own finances. I wasn't walking the talk because I'm the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
And as we all are.
Yeah.
And
Physician,
so
heal thyself. Yeah.
Exactly. I could tell you what to do. I knew what to do. Yeah. Don't eat the cookies, but I eat cookies.
Yeah, I'll eat the cookies. Yeah. As you're chewing on a cookie, don't eat the cookies.
Don't eat those cookies. And so basically I had to get an integrity and an alignment with what I was telling other people. I needed to be walking the talk, and I had to do a deep dive into my own mental mindset around money and deserving and self-worth and all these things. And it really, as I was going through my process, and really starting to understand what was going on for my clients, because it had nothing to do with 2 + 2 is 4. It's how they felt about it,
Yeah.
and their belief system around it. And so that became my mission: is how do we normalize these conversations? So many of us take ourselves out before we even get to the start. We get to that starting line and we've already said, I'm going to lose. There's people faster. I shouldn't even bother.
Yeah. Nobody in
And
my
I was,
family's ever been good with money, so I can't be good with money. And yeah.
and there it is. And so what I've come to realize is, and I did not get this guidance when I was young, do it scared,
Yeah.
do it with your voice shaking, just show up. Because most of the time, if you show up and stick it out, everybody else is going to drop out anyway. And you just win by pure perseverance.
Yeah. Yep. It's the same thing I've told people about business all along. People will ask, what's your secret to success in business? I was like, outlasted everybody else that went into business when I did.
Exactly. And you have to love what you do.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I love working with numbers. I love helping people. I've written a couple of books. I just wrote my first in a series of children's financial literacy books, because I want kids to learn to be able to say no, to change their mind. When I was a kid, whatever decision I made, I had to live with it. So I didn't want to make a decision.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that my parents were bad or wrong. They didn't know better. And so I didn't get those fundamentals that some people got. And actually, I think a lot of us didn't get them.
I think the problem is you're assuming your parents were geniuses with money too. And I know my parents weren't, and they're the first to admit it. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, because they were never taught. I mean, we just don't have a good financial education in this world, basically, or we have an education system that was based on the industrialized world, which was, we don't really want you to be smart with money. We want you to get up and go to work every day and keep the rich people rich.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think for me, once I started to realize it was about mindset and that it was about, how do I view things? Am I setting up goals? Am I sticking to what I say that I want? I know you talk about this too. You got to know what the truth is.
Yeah.
I talk about honest budgeting, right? What are you really spending? If you've got an addiction, I'm not judging it. I just need to factor it into my
need to know it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was the biggest thing, Bob, that it was my revelation when I really started to go down the road of Freedom Day. It was the one disservice that I did to my client. It was disservice, and I think just clients in general. You would ask, okay, what's your monthly budget? Oh, I spend about $4,000. And you make $150,000 a year, you spend $48,000, yet you can only come up with $100 or $200 to spend on savings per month. Where's the disconnect here? Yeah, you've got to be spending that money someplace. And I think the one financial planning software that I use and still use to this day, it has two different ways of factoring your cash flow. One way is it does what's called cash flow, which is it assumes you save everything, that you don't tell it what it's spending. The other way is called modified, which is it assumes that you're spending all that, and showing them the difference of, okay, you told me you only spend $4,000 a month. You're saving $100. Okay, let's look at the plan. Explodes on them.
Yeah, it's interesting. People want to, if I make $1,000, but my net check is 800.
Yeah,
I'm saying I make 1,000. No,
sure.
You make 800.
No, make 800.
Right? And then if I spend $11 on something, I say it cost me 10. And so we're rounding down expenses and rounding up the income. It's not gonna work out.
Yeah. Age and money are the only two things we round down on, unless we're below age 18. Yeah.
Exactly. And I find when we start to get a little more honest and a little more conscious, and it's so easy. I was a friend, we were doing a podcast, and he came in with a premium coffee from one of those companies I won't name. And I said, okay, you just spent like $5-6. No, I didn't. It's $250. I said, give me the receipt. Oh my goodness. It was $4.98. I thought it was $250. When did it go up? It's so automatic.
Yeah.
And I think with the use of debit cards and Venmo, and we're not actually feeling the money. Transferring $1 million in $5 feels exactly the same.
But I say that, and we in the industry have said that for years. Oh, you're spending $4 on a cup of coffee. I'm not worried about the $4 cup of coffee. I'm worried about the $180 cell phone bill that you're spending, or the oh, I cut the cable cord, so I'm not spending $125 a month, but now I have 75 $4 channels that I'm being $4 to death on, and I don't watch half of them at that point.
Yeah, and the good and bad about automation, right? When we pay the bills,
Yep.
it's great if we're saving.
Oh, yeah.
Automation's great saving. But if I decided, and I do this every so often, I look at my cable bill, I look at my phone bill, I look
Sure.
at my credit cards, and I was paying for a free iPad,
Yeah.
$50 a month for a free iPad and another phone line. And apparently I was paying for something to tune up my car to tell me, I was like, I don't even have that. So all these free things that I
Sure.
was funding, and I
Yeah.
know better.
Yeah, and they'll $4 you to death. That's the problem. Yeah, especially with phone apps and all that. I was reading a book the other day, and the author of the book was talking about the Pareto principle, and it works in everything. You only use 20% of the apps on your phone. 80% of them don't do anything, and half the time you've
Right.
subscribed to other services, and it's hidden back in the Google Play or Apple Pay or whatever side of it. You don't even see it, and you're just, like I said, $4 to death everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
At least you get to enjoy the coffee. So.
Right. That's true too. Yeah. And I agree. It's not about the coffee itself. It's really about, as this friend of mine says, unconsciously comfortable in debt, right?
Yeah.
Unconsciously comfortable not looking.
Absolutely.
I don't want to.
I'm not going to admit that. Or, I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon. I'll return it. Yeah. And it's still sitting on the counter and you haven't returned it.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about your process. So when somebody works with you, or I'm assuming they consume the podcast and your website and stuff like that, how do you walk them down a process?
So the first thing I do is when people come to me, and usually they've heard the podcast, they've seen the website, they did a workshop, or they've seen me talk, and they'll come in and say, look, I've got some anxiety around money, or I've got some money issues. The first thing I actually do is I ask people, are you willing to be uncomfortable? And are you willing to do the work? And believe it or not, I have people sometimes say, no, I'm not really going to do the work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're done.
Yeah. But we don't need to work together then. Yeah. Don't waste your money.
We don't need to work.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to fix you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do that. I can guide you. I can give you tools. I can give you feedback. I can't fix you and I can't change your mindset. So that's the first thing I do. I ask them, are you going to do it? And because it is uncomfortable. We have to start looking at our debt and our prior choices and our self-sabotage and then have to internalize or bring to the surface what we thought our parents thought of us, the worry we had about our friends judging us, or if the church or the temple is judging us, right? Yeah. All these things. And so what I start to do is we start to excavate. We go through and what do you remember? What do you remember when you were 4 or 5 and 6? I want to know, like, the juicy bits, the things that seem insignificant, but you remember this vivid story. You really just start to figure out what was the story you were told. Because at some point you took this story on and said, that's my truth, even if it was based on fiction, right? And now we've said, no, that's the truth. I was told that when I was 5.
Okay.
And so that's the first place, because I got to figure out where we are emotionally and what stories we brought on before I can even get to the practical, before I can talk to setting goals. Once we do that, I want to explore emotions. I want to explore fears, fear of success, fear of the IRS, fear of getting caught, fear of being judged. Like, we have so many, and most people can give you a list pretty quick. And the other big thing I ask people when I get started with them, I say, how are you going to self-sabotage this?
You just get it out on the table right up front.
What are you going to do? And here's the great thing. People will tell you, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'll do this, and they got to, because we've got our strategies. And so it's really important for me to get it up front. How am I going to sabotage? Because now that I've admitted it, how am I going to stop it when I see it rearing its ugly head?
Yeah.
Because
and I'm assuming you're trying to get them to recognize that themselves instead of you having to tell them all the time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because we've got to start to have that awareness. We have to name it, name it, claim it. If you don't actually take accountability, take responsibility for these things, it's really then hard to say, if I don't claim the responsibility that I got myself in debt, then it's difficult for me to move past that. Now, a lot of people say this happened and that happened. Okay, we all love a victim story. It's fun, gets us some attention, but it gets old.
Yeah.
And so how do I want to be empowering? How do I want to step up, step forward even if I'm doing it scared, even if I'm whatever those things are, to just show up. And
Yeah.
so we just go through all that stuff. And I tell people, you're going to cry, you're going to get angry, you're going to laugh, all these things. It's uncomfortable, but you've got to go. I truly believe you do have to go through the fire. You can't go around it. And so I really work with people to start to uncover their story. I have this belief that every story has a cost, right? As
Yeah.
an accountant, I'm doing a cost benefit. What's it costing you? What's it benefiting you? And we have to decide, am I willing to keep paying this cost, or do I want a different story?
Yeah.
And then am I going to change the narrative?
Yeah.
Because
And
I'm
how
the
do
only
I
one that
change
can.
my story? Yeah. You can change
Yeah.
your story. You've got to be willing to do it, and you've got to be willing to recognize what's coming back to hurt you. So somebody gets through that initial process. Are you working with them, or do you bring somebody else in later to work with the money side of it? Or
Typically, what I've been doing is I work with people through. I either do, I so some people I send them through an online course, and I
Yep.
maybe every 3 or 4 weeks we do a little connecting touch base, and I do money groups on Facebook and different places where people can find support and talk to other people, and I'll facilitate those. Typically, if somebody's wanting to make changes around investing and actually getting to that next level, I'll give them to a financial advisor.
Yep.
I'm very selective about financial advisors. It's like anything, CPAs, financial advisors, car salesmen. There are some great ones and not so
Yep.
great ones. And so I want to make sure that I'm setting them up with somebody that can really take care of them and that's, in it on the long haul with them.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. What do you see as the biggest challenges when you get somebody that, basically lies to you and says, yes, I'm willing to do the work? What do you see as the things that come back to bite them?
I think the biggest resistance for a lot of people is the accountability.
Okay.
I don't really want to own that I did that. It's really my parents' fault. I had a bad teacher. I didn't get the lucky break at college. And some of those things may be true. It may be that I didn't get to go to Harvard. It may be that I didn't grow up with super wealthy. I didn't grow up at Buckingham Palace, right? But to be able to own it and go, yeah, this is what I got.
Yeah.
That's hard for a lot of people to say, oh, this is actually where I really am.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so true.
That's painful.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it straight up sucks. And yeah, you have to come to the reality of not everybody went to Harvard, and not just because you went to Harvard are you going to be successful either. There's plenty of people who didn't go to college at all who are massively successful, or didn't complete college and are massively successful. I look at it, I went through college, but I didn't study any of the stuff that I ended up doing in life. All it taught me was I had a degree in psychology and a minor in English literature. So I understood how people are wired and I know how to write well. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this will sound weird probably, but I think one of the biggest emotions that we have to process when we're going through all this stuff to get to the other side is grief.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of grief around choices that we made or we didn't make because we were afraid and we held back. And so I find grief comes up a lot.
Yeah. Or we just make idiotic, stupid mistakes and come to the realization, oh, I wish I hadn't have made that mistake. You should learn from it. If you did want to go through life not having to learn from mistakes, but the reality is that I'm still going to make mistakes, whether I like it or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, just finish your thought, because next thing was going to be what's new in your world. So maybe you can weave that all together.
Yeah, sure. I think the other big piece is being judged either by ourselves or by our peers. Oh, now you're successful. You got to pay for all the dinners. Oh, you drive a fancy car. Like I didn't want to have, this is funny now, but for the longest time, I didn't want to have a fancy car because I didn't want to have to give more money at the valet. Because I'm like, man, when I drove my Corolla, they were happy with $1 or $2. I'm in a Lexus, they want $5. So I'll just forego abundance. So I don't.
Yeah, so I don't have to spend more money. Yeah.
It's crazy thinking.
Yeah.
But I'm okay now with paying the $5, and I'm even willing to pay $15 for a coffee at the airport.
Yeah.
It's still a little traumatizing.
Exactly.
But I think for me, the newest thing though for me is I've written my first children's book. I'm getting ready to write a second one, and I'm partnering up with people from different communities so that it's not the white guy sharing everybody else's experience.
Yeah.
Because I'm certainly aware of my whiteness. But I think the biggest thing is finally getting to a place where I'm okay if I don't have money in the bank. Yeah, I like having money in the bank. Having money in the bank, being able to say no to people, not worrying. Yeah, they might think that, yeah, they might. Great.
Mm.
Have your thoughts. None of my business.
Yeah.
And I'm at a place where I'm willing to try things, do new things. Just started a clothing line of clothes.
Nice.
I keep saying clothing line, and everybody's like, in your backyard. Like,
That's a
clothing line. I'm
close the line.
but I like to keep busy. I
Yeah.
love what I do. And I think that what's great about that is you talk about your financial freedom day, right?
Yeah.
Your freedom day. And I do all these things because I choose to. I could
Mhm.
certainly just go lay at a beach and do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I
Yep.
want to have these conversations. I want to help other people. I want to be able to be that person that pays it forward when somebody paid it forward for me. I had so many
Mhm.
people helping me out that believed in me when I certainly didn't believe in myself. And so for me, I want to keep showing up and having impact. And so
Mhm.
that's a great place to be, knowing that I don't have to worry about how I'm going to, oh, I have to do a $5,000 car repair. I got
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Don't want to pay it, but I
No,
got it.
no, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I can. If there a cheaper way I can do this, yes, I'm still. It's funny. I'm in the same boat. It's okay. I really don't have to do anything I don't want to. I do this because I love it and I love the people that I get to interact with, like yourself. They're just fun people to be with and share stories and share expertise. And but I also look at it. I'm like, I still treat myself as if I don't have money because it keeps me
Right.
hungry. It still keeps me hungry and it makes me be creative about it. If
Right.
I buy real estate, people are like, oh, I've got to save up all this money for a down payment. No, you don't. You don't have
Yeah.
to. There's tons of creative ways to do it where you don't even have to have a down payment. So, be creative, treat yourself as if you don't have money, but don't treat yourself with abundance, but treat yourself like you don't have money because it's easy when you have money to do things. It's harder and I think requires more creativity when you don't have the money to do it.
For sure. I was definitely a lot more creative when money was tighter because
Yep.
I didn't,
Yeah.
I got it. Just pay for it. Just do
Yeah.
it. Then I had to be like, oh, let me figure this out.
Yeah.
But I also
Well,
think one of the things that I think too is there's this misconception that if I'm a millionaire, I have $1 million at my fingertips every day,
yeah.
right? That I can just blow through $1 million liquid cash. That's not true at all. I can have a net worth of 3 or 4 million bucks and only have 100,000, maybe only
Mhm.
50,000,
Yeah.
and maybe only 10,000 in the bank because my assets are not liquid cash. They're
Sure.
tied up. And so I think my dad, he's gotten older and he's always, oh, you're rich. You're a millionaire. You're rich. I'm like, Dad, I have I have
may have
accumulated wealth. Yes.
I may have a net worth of 3 million, but yeah, it's not a yeah,
But I
just
don't have it in my wallet.
I
Yeah.
don't bathe in dollar bills every night in my
Right.
bathtub, but yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
I
awesome.
enjoy them. I enjoy
Yeah.
the liquid cash, but I also want assets working for me.
Yep.
So I make sure that I'm comfortable. But I think there's this misconception that, oh, if you've got assets, you can just afford
Mhm.
anything. And
Yeah.
no, you still have to be mindful. You still have to be intentional and you still have to pick and choose your priorities.
Yeah. And I think you have it right. It's assets. That's one of the core principles of what we teach is you use your active income to buy assets that create passive income. Yeah.
Right.
And then you don't think about income. I don't today, to this date, I don't even think about income because I just know that there's money that comes into the account every month at the beginning of the month. It gets shifted around to different assets. So I buy more and then we live on whatever's left over and that's it. And then treat myself as if I'm on a regular paycheck and I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah. And it's so funny. My business partner, I was driving for lunch the other day.
Mm.
She said, oh, you need to get a new car. I said, no, this one's
Why?
paid off. It's working great. She's, yeah. I'm like, no,
no,
I'm good.
Yeah.
I can drive this for another 10 years. It
Yeah.
still looks good.
Yeah.
It works.
It's a Lexus. It'll last forever. It's like the cockroach
It
of
will.
cars.
It will. They will last forever.
Yeah.
But there was a time where I wanted to have a new car every couple of years.
yeah.
They kept giving them to me.
Mm.
But I'm happy. I don't need to drive up in the newest, fanciest
Nope.
car. And my phone doesn't need to be the newest and fanciest. It's working. I hate that we're such a throwaway society. I've got this air pump and I just need a hose on it. They're like, just get a new one.
Yeah. I just need a hose.
I just need a hose. I don't want to throw this in the junk.
It's like a $2 part. Please, can you help me out here? Oh, we'll just spend another $30. No, I just want the $2
Right.
part.
We're so disposable.
Yeah.
Toss.
Yeah. Even our
So
technology, that's what makes me laugh. I sit back and think in my office, I've probably got 12 laptops that generate, and I just don't even know what to do with them. And that's okay. Nobody else can really use it. And what do I do with this now? And I've moved on to the next one.
oh, it's funny that as you were just talking about the computer, and I
Yeah.
realized that I have this fixation with sunk cost, right? Money I've
Okay.
already spent. So I
Yep.
got to make it last. So when I bought my first computer 100 years ago, when I bought my first computer, it was like $5,000.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this better. And I wanted that computer to last me for the next 25 years. I wanted to get
Yeah.
every dollar out of it. And now I have 6, 7 computers. That one doesn't work. Get another one.
Yeah.
And they've become so
Well,
disposable.
when you realize your $5,000 computer had less computing capacity than a flip phone had.
Exactly. It's like, all right, I can let
Yeah.
it go. But that was
Yeah.
so hard in the
Sure.
beginning. But I think for a lot of us, we get stuck on this sunk cost. I already put the money in. So I got to stay the course, even though it's not serving me, instead of just knowing when to cut the line and let it go.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's transition to the fast 5 questions now.
All right.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. First one. You wake up in the morning, your business is totally gone. You have a laptop computer, $500 in your pocket, a place to live and food. What are you going to do first?
I think the first thing I'm going to do is take a deep breath. And just check out
Breathe
my
in,
reality.
breathe out. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm going to decide what was the couple of top things that I wanted to do if I didn't have my business. What was
Mhm.
something I wanted to do? And then I would figure out how to take that $500 and either create a social media campaign or to create a pitch or something to go out and convince people to assist me in my next venture.
I love it. Love it. What's the biggest business mistake you've ever made?
I think when I had a clothing company years ago and I trusted everybody else to do the work, like the
Mhm.
lawyers and everything, and I didn't really, are you sure? Did this happen? And we had a trademark and the attorney told me everything was a go, but it
Mhm.
wasn't. And so I started doing all these things and then found out the trademark hadn't perfected.
Oof.
And so somebody came in that had something similar, but different enough, but I knew they had a lot of money. And so they came in and they're like, we're going to sue you. And it was going to cost me $100,000 to fight the trademark.
Hmm.
And I had to just let it go.
Yeah.
And because at the time it wasn't successful enough that it was worth going towards, but the trademark, had it been done properly, had I stayed on top of things and actually stuck to the plan and not really started my business until I knew I had everything secure, I think that was it's a big mistake, but I never forgot it.
Yep. You
I
won't
won't
ever
ever
do
do
that
that
one again,
again.
will you? What's a good book that
Never.
you'd recommend for our audience?
So my favorite book is The Power of Focus.
Okay.
And it's a great book for people that like to get things done. And it just gives you some tools to really hone in on how to be efficient and effective and actually, what do I want to do and how do I want to show up? And then how do I execute? Because I think, and even in my own material, and I talk about this with goals and dreams, I know this is supposed to be fast 5, sorry, but this piece about getting my spending in alignment with what I say
Mhm.
I want.
Okay.
And then actually, if I say I want to buy a car, then start putting the money in the bank account, have the
Mhm.
money to pay the cash.
Yep.
Or I want to go send somebody to college, start putting the money away instead of, oh yeah, one day I wanted, no, actually actual steps, real time.
I love that. Absolutely.
Power of Focus, great book.
Power Focus. I love this. And I think that's the first time it's ever been recommended. So it's another great one, new one to add to the best of list. What is a tool that you use in your business every day that you'd recommend?
So I guess this is old school. I love Excel.
Nice.
I love Excel because I can make lists of to-dos. I can use it for calculations. I love to make lists and then check everything off. And so I've got lots, and I use Excel quite a bit, whether I'm
Sure.
trying to explain stuff to a client, whether I'm just trying to track what movies I got to watch. I
Mhm.
just, the reason I like Excel versus a lot of these new apps and things, you have to type stuff in. And I still believe that you can talk it, but if you're typing or writing, there's a connection between brain and finger,
Mhm.
pencil to mind, that you don't get when you just verbally dictate or just have an app track things.
Yeah.
I like to actually get in and have real time.
Love it. Love it. Final question. What is your definition of freedom?
Freedom. For me, it's being able to do what I want when I want, meaning I'm not beholden to anybody. Yeah, I got to pay my mortgage or this or that, but I'm in a place where I get to wake up and decide, is this what I want to do today? I'm in a position of saying that doesn't work for me, especially with my tax practice. I'm in a great position to be able to turn down a lot of business. People are always like, hey, we can help you get more business. Yeah, I'm turning it away.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, that's fine. I
I'm,
don't really need any more. Thank you.
I'm in a good space. So freedom to actually make those choices and do things that actually feel like they serve me.
Excellent. Bob, thank you so much for being on. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Best way is info@themoneynerve.com.
Okay.
Info@themoneynerve.com. That's got my website to the podcast, to the online course, to the CPA practice, all those good things, the children's financial literacy book series. It's a great way. There's free resources, but if people want to learn to normalize their relationship with money, check us out. Happy to one-on-one coach or just simply listen. We love to hear from people.
Love it. Bob, thank you so much. Just a wonderful interview. And I knew it was going to be when we met a few weeks ago. So thank you for coming on today. Folks, feel free, reach out to Bob. He's a great guy and he's got a great process. So make sure that you're reaching out to him. Let him know that you came from the podcast and he'll take extra special care of you here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeff. I so appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Folks, as we always do, we run these shows 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays now. And keep an eye out for them, and keep an eye out for now the new Freedom Nation YouTube page. We are actually taking some of our old interviews that we did last year. We're creating a best of series, and we're putting all the new shows up there as well. So make sure you go up there. If you are somebody that likes to watch us on camera, I do have a face for radio. Bear with me when you watch on YouTube. So we'll see you guys here next time. Thanks a lot and have a wonderful